Hey everybody, good to see you. It's good to be able to gather with you tonight. Let's stand together. We'll sing a few songs. I just spontaneously just had a great idea. I might get in trouble. Because all the elders are here, but I just thought of a new motto for our church. All right. It's not a vision statement. It's not our technical mission. We know our mission statement is the Great Commission. Jesus decided that. Our vision is to saturate Seattle with the gospel. But I'm just going to add on a new motto. The church that worships Jesus on Monday nights. That says a lot, right? Like,
that's really...
We worship on Sunday and Monday. And we can just keep adding to that. We can worship Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever days you want to add as members, you can add. You can expand that motto as much as you want. But yes, we're going to worship Jesus on a Monday night. It's about to happen. So let's sing loud. Shay's going to lead the first song.
We definitely have to work on that and make it a little catchier than we worship on Mondays.
The church with a case of the Mondays. In a good way.
That's good.
It's still not catchy enough. All right.
All right.
The blind won't gain their sight by opening their eyes. A king is coming to this city, and crowds around are following. If I could see, I would follow too. He heals the sick with his hands. As he walks by, they reach for him. If I could see, I would reach out too. The blind won't gain their sight by opening their eyes. Son of David, have mercy on me. Son of David, have mercy on me. Son of David, I want to see. Son of David, have mercy. I cannot leave this gate since I cannot see my way, but I can stand and call his name. No, I could never leave this gate, but I will stand and shout
hearing your voices together, that's like the most amazing thing I've ever heard. It's just cool to hear our family, our body worshiping together like that. This is a cool thing. A lot of you know Michaela. She was one of our worship leaders here. But her first time leading worship with us was last year at this time. And then since then, she's become a member. So that's pretty cool. So, hey, new members, and the family's growing. It's awesome. But she's going to lead the next song, so follow Michaela. Get tired of hearing that good news. I never get tired of hearing that message. Let's proclaim it to each other. Just our voices. Upon His grace I'll daily ponder and sing anew His praise with all adoring wonder. His blessings I retrace. It seems as if eternal days are far too short to sing His praise. Oh, the love that brought me home, the blood that brought me home, the grace that brought me to the fold of God. Grace that brought me to the fold of God. Let's use this as an opportunity to meditate on His grace together. We're going to sing that chorus one more time. And don't just sing it, but take in that truth. song together, we get this opportunity to remind each other of what Jesus has done for us. He continues to do amazing, miraculous things in the life of our church, and then we continue to face various struggles throughout the week and face things in our lives, and sometimes we forget. But we have this chance to come together and preach these little sermons to each other, to your brothers and sisters. You get to turn and remind them of what Jesus has done. Remind them that Jesus is going to provide again next week, and He's going to provide again tomorrow. So as we get a chance to remind each other again, let's sing a new song together. Sing with me. The hearts of kings held like water in your hand. My heart beats at the guidance of your breath. Heaven sings and the whole earth bows its head. It's a wonder that I'm loved. Mighty God, defender, Father, friend. Mighty God, sustainer to the end. Mighty God, in you alone I find my rest. Mighty God, Father, friend. Amen. Endures only as you have ordained, and mountains split beneath the current of your grace. Heaven sings and the whole earth shouts your name. It's a wonder that I'm loved. Let's shout it together. Mighty God, defender, Father, friend. Sustainer to the end. Mighty God, in you alone I find my rest. Mighty God, Father, friend. Mighty God, in you alone I find my rest. Sustainer to the end. Mighty God, in you alone I find my rest. Mighty God, Father, friend. He's a good Father, amen. Amen. All right, let's have a seat.
Amen. All right, thank you so much. I love that song. Good to see you guys. Welcome to our members meeting. We're glad you guys are here. Since you're comfortable seated, we're going to sit as well. Man, I was just walking through the church and people milling about in here and people getting food out there. And I just went back actually to the offices, and I was thinking, this is unbelievable. Like, it is so cool. And I pray that I will not lose the awe and the wonder of what God is doing in this place. Yeah. It was 4 years ago that Cam Huxford and Adam and I were somewhat shell-shocked sitting together, wondering what was going to be coming next. I just remember being like, well, we need to shepherd the sheep. We gotta move forward. We gotta plant a church. And here we are.
Full disclosure, I frantically Googled architecture jobs for about a day and a half.
The advantage, I could not go and Google tank driving, right? That was not one of the options. So I guess that was your advantage right there. It's kind of like Peter, where else am I gonna go? So here we are. But I'm serious. This wasn't something I planned. It wasn't something that I was thinking, oh, this is going to be a great beginning to our members meeting. I just got really emotional. And there's no reason for it other than I had a sense of the presence of God and of the hand of God on what's happening here. And I'm really excited about it. And so I pray that if you're in this church and you're in a community group of people that love you and that pray for you and that pray with you and that laugh at your jokes and that come alongside you when you need their love and their prayers, and if you're in that place and you come to this church every Sunday and you hear Jesus preached, I pray that you would not lose the wonder that particularly in this part of the country is not normal and is not something that any of us should take for granted. All right, that's not in my notes. However, it kind of fits with some of the stuff we want to talk about tonight, which is give you both a look back at this is where we've been, and then a look ahead. And funny enough, the look ahead actually is still somewhat tenuous as we're talking as elders and board, and we're praying and we're looking at some of the opportunities that God seems to have sovereignly placed in our lap. And so you will be the first ones to hear, other than the elders, of some of the ideas and some of the things we're praying through and some of the things that actually may pretty soon come down the pipe. So this could be potentially really exciting. But I want to start with just looking at where we've been. So this church now, we're nearly 4 years old. We'll celebrate 4 years January 4th, so that's really cool. And we've been in this building just over 3 years, right? August 16th of 2015 is when we moved in here. And if you weren't with us then, it didn't look like this. And I remember the first time we walked in, there were broken dishes and there was rat poop everywhere, and there was just bowls with rice, and cake that was moldy, and it was horrible. And this is what, by the grace of God, we get to come to and worship in and be a family in, which is really, really exciting.
I don't know if it's just me, but does it not feel like the 3 years that we've been in this building have gone by like that? Anybody else? Yeah, it's been incredible.
It's because you're old. If you're younger, that wouldn't have gone that fast. Just saying.
I don't know if that's encouragement or wisdom or what aspect of your spiritual gifting just came out right there, but
I think it's truth-telling, right? It's just, that's what they pay me for. Tell the truth. But yeah, it's amazing. So we started out with just, as I said, Cam, Adam, and I, and by the grace of God, today, that has actually increased pretty amazingly. And Adam, maybe you want to talk about our current staffing a little bit. And again, keep in mind, we didn't know anybody would keep coming. We didn't know we would have any money whatsoever. So we're like, well, we gotta see what happens. We might not have a job tomorrow, but let's try for today. And by the grace of God, here we are.
Yeah, it's been incredible. So we have essentially a team of 12 that are really carrying a very heavy and consistent load here at the church. We have 7 full-time staff members here at the church, including 5 staff pastors. So Matthias, myself, Cam, Brent, and Simon are our staff pastors. And we also have Cam Morris and Che Choi on our team. It's just been incredible. We've been able to have some great stability in our team, which has been fantastic. As we've been able to figure out kind of where each of our giftings are and as opportunities come up, I think we're able to slot each other into a little bit more, a better fit for our giftings. And sometimes it takes time to kind of figure out how do we all fit together as puzzle pieces. So it's been really encouraging to see. We also have 5 additional team members that contribute significantly week in, week out. And I just want to mention them by name and just and give them a shout out. So we have Jeremy Drury.
Maybe they can stand. If they're
Jeremy,
here.
perfect. There you go. All right, this is Jeremy. So Jeremy's on our team as a resident and currently leading our junior high and high school ministry. We have Mikayla Mosley, our production intern, already standing.
Already. Woo.
One of his favorite things. Alexis Langley, our women's ministry director. Emma Hoisel. Where are you, Emma? Are you in here? There you go. Stand up.
So Emma has come on a part-time temporary basis this summer as Cam, who was my full-time assistant, transitioned into a new role. I was like, man, no one is going to help me. No one likes me. And so she came on to do research for me. And it's been, have you guys been enjoying the sermons? Yeah, some good stuff, right? Thank you, Emma, for doing all the research for that. So we appreciate that.
And then we also have Caitlin Stark, who I suppose might be upstairs. She helps out with administration with our kids' ministry team and is fantastic up there, just a bundle of energy. So that's our team of 12 that we have. In addition, I don't want to miss letting you guys know that we have a couple of non-staff elders as well. So Rick Bumpus, you want to give a little shout. And in apparently the non-staff pastor line of sight, Kirby, directly behind him, Kirby Langley. And then also Bo Rolfson as one of our board members. Yes, Bo, you can stand. Thank you.
Oh.
So that's the team that we've got right now, and we are exceptionally grateful for all of you, and they carry such a significant load week in, week out. So thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, guys. So here's one thing that we have taken very, very serious as a team, and that is how do we care well for the people that are already here and the people that God, in His grace, would bring to us. And I think that's something that we've been really surprised by, that there seems to be a constant influx of new people that are needing care in some way, shape, or form. And so, man, one thing that I love is with the elders, what we do on a very, very regular basis, we have elder meetings every Thursday morning, 6 to 8 a.m., and so these guys get up early, they show up, we do business, we do work. But the thing that I love the most, and I think you can ask these men, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but what I love the most is when we take a large chunk of that 2 hours, or sometimes the entire 2 hours, and what we do is we write names on the board. We write couples and individuals and students and, you name it, people that are needing prayer on that whiteboard. And sometimes we have a whiteboard, just name after name after name, and we spend the entire time just praying that God would be gracious, that God would intervene, that God would do a miracle. And if I look around and I see a bunch of you in here, and I know your name has been on the board, and we have prayed for you for various reasons. Whether it's like, they're a small group leader and there's some stuff going on in their small group that, needs prayer. Or we've prayed for a number of you that were having trouble having babies, and now a lot of those are now parents, which is really, really awesome. So we've seen, if you need prayer for babies, I think we have some level of anointing in the baby category. But so it's been stuff like, there's a person, that's in the hospital. There's a person that is dealing with sickness and cancer. And so it's, I love that part of our job. And what I said in February, and a couple people raised their eyebrows, and didn't just raise their eyebrows, but actually came and were like, you seem crazy. Our church is not that big, is when I said we need to become a church that in everything we do, whether it's Sundays, whether it's our welcome, whether it's our community groups, whether it's our counseling, that cares well for 1,000 people. And people were like, that's crazy. I remember talking with Linda. She's like, that is crazy. And I showed her the numbers at the time. And the numbers back then were 747 of people actively engaged in any given 90-day period. So the way we count it is if you serve, if you are in a community group, if you check in your kids, if you give, what else? That's it, right?
Those are pretty much it, yeah.
That's it. And if you do this more than once in any given 90-day period of time, then you're considered an active person in our church. I don't know how else to figure out who is part of our church. But that, back in February of this year, was 747. The reason I remember it is it's my favorite airplane. Is that weird? Maybe that's weird. I was always like, man, I want to be up there. That has never happened. Well, it probably never happened. It's okay. But today, that number is what?
It's 888.
That number from February to today is 800. Do you have a breakdown of that?
I do.
He's
Where is
the
it?
numbers guy.
I know, I should have it right in front of me. I wasn't ready for that. Hey, it's up on the screen. You all have a breakdown of that number. I was prepared about an hour and a half ago. So about 650 adults and 230 plus kids on that. Now, and that is only the people that we've been able to capture information of. So if you've given a Connect card, if you've come to a service and if somebody put their name in and said, I'm interested in getting connected with a community group or a service team, at that point, then we've also kind of put you in the system. There's also going to be a lot of people that maybe come and check out the church, and maybe they're not engaged. They just come to be a part of the service that we might have dozens more that we can't even in any way track, if you will. But for the best way for us to be able to count, it's almost 900 people at this point in time.
Yeah. So the book of Proverbs says, know well the condition of your flock. And so we're trying to the best of our ability to figure out how to do that.
One more note on that, sorry. If you have kids and you check in your kids, that's one of the ways that we can track. And if you don't do that for a span of 90 days, i.e. if you go somewhere else or just decide not to come, you might find it rather difficult to check your kids in because you'll have been scrubbed from the system. And it's happened to a couple of families, I'll just let you know.
Oops. Yeah, so anyways, so every 90 days, that number gets cleaned out and that system gets kind of redone. And the reason for that is we don't want to live in a make-believe world of pastoral numbers. I've been, never mind. That would take us really down the wrong path. So let's talk a little bit about where are we now? Are we caring well for 1,000 people? Are we doing okay?
Well, we've got different levels of ways to be able to get people involved and engaged, and that's been really fun to see, especially over the last year or two. Those have really expanded. So one of the ways that people can be engaged for our women's ministry, especially our women's studies series. We have, right now, we're finishing up a 9-week series looking at the book of Hebrews and people that have lived a life of faith. We've had about 70 women, if not more, that have been consistently showing up every week, either on a Wednesday morning or a Sunday afternoon. That's been really exciting to see. We've got 50 plus people that have stuck it out through an entire year of working through our discipleship courses, our discipleship groups. This is a great way for us to be able to learn more about either theology or discovering what a life with God looks like, or what it looks like to be a leader in the church. We've been meeting once a month, and that's been really fun because last year we did it with a group of 12. And then we tasked those 12 help lead these groups, and now that's been brought in. So we've got 56 people that have stuck it out through the entire year, and we're about ready in January. We'll launch another round of those as we're tapping those 56 people on the shoulder to say, would you help do this again for another person so that we can have more come in and be a part of this. And then here's a number that's crazy, is 223 people are serving. And that's consistent. They're serving at minimum once a month. But it's 266 roles, 223 people are serving. So it quite literally takes a church to run a church.
Wow, that is larger. So the average, I think, well in excess of 90% of churches are 80 people and below. So we have 2 churches serving our one church. So we're really grateful for that. Awesome. So discipleship groups, keep your ears to the ground on that. Opportunity coming up for next year, all right? So if you're like, man, I want to be a part of this, I want to do either of those classes that we're offering, and we're going to actually offer some extra ones next year. If you're desirous of being a part of that, we would love to have you talk to us and kind of figure out where you might fit. And so the options are going to be both a yearly one as well as some 12-week intensives.
You know, we're just working through right now what leader availability looks like and what the options we'll have for you all to sign up and be a part of those. So round about Thanksgiving, we should have some of those things dialed in, and we'll let you guys know on Sundays as well, or through the newsletter. But yeah, just keep your ear to the ground for those things.
Yeah, so we've seen great growth in that area, and that's also been true financially. So you guys have been phenomenally generous, and we are so appreciative of that. We're doing really, really well. We're both ahead in giving, and we're at or below our budgeted spending, and that is a recipe for success. So maybe Adam can give us some details.
We've got numbers for you. And I'm sorry, I don't have any color graphs, so we'll make this a little quick.
What?
I know, I'm so sorry. Here's 3 numbers I think that are helpful to look at. $237,000. That's $237,000 given above this point last year, which just means, man, you guys have been so generous. Thank you for entrusting us with those resources. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to press forward into the mission that God's called us to, and to be able to invest in people, invest in things like facilities. It's been really, really encouraging. Total giving year to date is about $193,000 more than we anticipated. We took the average of the last 3 years and said, what would that look like on a month-to-month average, so averaging out Septembers over the last 3 years, and then put that together as our budget, and then we said, let's just plan, let's be conservative, and let's say maybe we have about 90% of those giving numbers. And what I love is that you don't operate at 90% of what was given last year. And you've gone above and beyond over the last few years of what we've anticipated. So we're really, really thankful for that. And it also means that the spending numbers are that we're living within our means. So on normal operating items, our month-to-month budget, while we've had to increase that as we go along, some unexpected expenses, we have lived within our means. So through September, we are $13,000 under what we anticipated to spend. So you couple that with more money coming in and less money going out, it means that we have more resources to be able to leverage for kingdom effectiveness, which has been just a ton of fun for us. I think we have some of the facility stuff that we've been able to do. We've taken some of those monies and especially this last month, we've been able to leverage some of those for facility improvements. And so you can see just a few things there that we've got going on. The recording studio, and I'll touch on that one again in just a second, but we've got that working upstairs. We're in process right now, really excited for that. We have a student lounge that we're taking, one of the rooms that was downstairs. If you head downstairs and you're going towards the overflow, there's that landing that has the men's and women's restrooms there. Nod if you know what I'm talking about. Yes? Okay, fantastic. If you hang a left, there's an old storage room, and we've turned it into this really cool, like, speakeasy, almost smoking lounge vibe. It's going to be a great
Is that
place
an option?
And you'll be really disappointed to know that we've set it aside for our junior high and high school ministry. Maybe we're teaching them young, I don't know. But it's a really cool room, and you'll have a chance to go down and look at that later on tonight, which is very cool. If you look up, we have a fan in the sanctuary, and if you were at the 11:30, you were very thankful for that yesterday. That's going to help us out I know this room gets cold in the winter, so it's going to help push heat down, and then it will part your hair in the summer, which is great. So we're really excited for that. What else do we have? Parking. I know this is a big one. It may feel like we've made a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be, but here's the thing. This lot that is right next to us is going away. We don't know when. It's scheduled right now to have two 22-story towers put up on it, which means it's going to be a nightmare around here in terms of parking. That's 85 plus stalls that we have access to every Sunday morning. They're going to be gone. And so we needed to find a solution, especially since we didn't know when that would be removed from our use. We could literally show up one day and there would be construction trucks and it would just be fenced off and we wouldn't have access to it. So we needed to come up with a solution because parking long-term really related to our viability to stay in this building, especially when we look at the number 888. If we want to continue to have this be a place where the gospel is preached, if we want to have a presence here, then we need to have certain fundamental things. And parking is just, as boring as that sounds, is an absolute necessity. Because people, if they can't find a place to park or if it's a bad parking experience, they'll never even get out of their car to walk into the door. And what we want to do is get them in here so they can hear the gospel and respond. So parking is something that we've been able to solve. It took 7 months of negotiating with the University of Washington. They didn't realize that they had an asset that they could monetize. So we let them know, we'll give you money to let us park in a garage that's empty on Sunday. And so we've been able to reach an agreement. We've got a 1-year lease with options to automatically renew for additional 2 years thereafter. So we're really excited for that. How many of you actually parked in that garage yet? Handful. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. You guys helping to get down there will help make the process better. And I know you're giving us feedback as you park there. Thank you. That's really, really helpful. So we're really excited. I think I shared this a couple services ago, but the things that you like think about and you worry about, if any of you are worriers, the things that would keep you up at night, parking was one of those things for me. So to be able to have a solution for this, a long-term viable solution, is really exciting for me on that one. The other improvement we've done with the facility over the last year is that we did a refresh up in our kids ministry. That was the first area that we painted. We had a lot of volunteer labor, and it was the first area that we got ready before we moved into this building. So I don't know if any of you have kids, they have a little bit of wear and tear on spaces. And so we went in and made some upgrades to some places, some improvements that have helped us improve flow, helped us improve security, and just made the space more welcoming and consistent throughout. And so that's been one of the upgrades that we've made this year. Really excited to be able to, out of the generosity and the abundance of resources that we have here, to reinvest into some of those things that just make this a really viable home for us, not only for now, but also moving forward. On the recording studio, this was something that we kind of pitched to you guys about a year ago, right? You remember that if you were here in the fall last year, the winter last year? We've been really... it's been an exciting process. It has been a slow process. Part of it is we ran into some problems with the city. We ran into a couple of inspector issues, and so we failed inspections about 3 times. They basically threatened to have us change the occupancy type of the entire building, and so we had to work through and finagle through a lot of those things, but we are through inspections now. We're running hard and fast. It's great. So we've got all the soundproofing done, all of the drywall, electricals ready to go, and we're ready for paint and getting some of the final trim work out. So we're really, really excited for that and ready for it to be just completed. I know Cam's been asking about it about every 3 weeks. Hey man, what's a date? What's a date? You didn't know that a year ago when I said Easter, I meant 2019. So we'll clarify that. But yeah, it's just been awesome to be able to invest in a lot of those areas here in the building.
Yeah, fantastic. So the vision remains the same. How do we use music to saturate Seattle and beyond with the gospel of Jesus? And ideally, we'll soon be able to take advantage of that studio and get out some songs. In the meantime, Cam, awesome job on all these new songs you guys wrote. And yeah. I'm pretty excited to see what God is going to use that space for. So here is why does all this matter is maybe what you're wondering. And I want to take us for just a second before I continue with this update and outlook. Why are we doing what we're doing? And this is one of my favorite passages in Scripture. And I know I say that about several, but and maybe the last couple of weeks you've been thinking Colossians is my favorite passage, but maybe my favorite is wherever I'm at. So this is out of 2 Corinthians. And what it's talking about is the new creation in Christ. And Paul says this, he says, all this new creation is from God, who through Christ reconciled us to himself and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. And he goes on, he's not done. He says, he explains it. What is the ministry of reconciliation? Which is the ministry, by the way, that every single one of you has, right? If you're thinking, oh, it's the pastors that have the ministry of reconciliation, it is the elders that have the ministry of reconciliation, it is the staff that has the ministry, it's maybe some missionaries. No, it is every single one of you. You have the ministry of reconciliation. And here is what Paul says that is. That is, in Christ, God was reconciling the world to himself, not counting their trespasses against them, and entrusting to us the message of reconciliation. Therefore, we are ambassadors for Christ, God making his appeal through us. What he's talking about is that we have been given the honor and the privilege to be ambassadors for Jesus Christ. Ambassadors with a message, ambassadors with a purpose, ambassadors for the sake of reconciliation. And so when we talk about how do we create a place, a church that cares well for all these people that God is entrusting us? How do we come up with ways in which we can love people well, care for people well, share the gospel with as many as possible? Why is it important to have parking so that people can actually get here, right? And like, man, if you've been here at various times, this is a sketchy place to come at times. Is that true? Thank you for coming anyways. I really appreciate that. Otherwise, we'd all be here by ourselves, and that would not be nearly as fun preaching to an empty room, right? But the thing is, we are here, the members of Cross and Crown, we are here because we understand that Jesus has become a missionary, and in that then he has given us the job of a missionary to bring reconciliation to the city of Seattle and beyond, so that men, women, and children in our city might know that there's a God who loves them, might know that there's a God who is not holding, not counting their trespasses against them, might know that there is a God who has written himself into the story, that they can know, that they can love, that they can interact with, that they can pray to, that loves them and has given himself for them, right? That is the whole point. And so with that, that is where our vision ultimately comes from, right? You guys remember our vision? Saturating the city of Seattle with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so here's kind of what we're thinking right now. Just like last February, we said, man, we need to build a church. We need to build systems. We need to make sure that care, that counseling, that community groups, that all that children's ministry spots, right? Why did we go to 3 services? Had to do with not wanting to close children's ministry classrooms. Had to do with we need to make sure we have enough seating, we have enough parking, we have enough children's ministry available for people to come and hear the gospel. And so just like we wanted to create a space that cares well for all these people, now we want to challenge ourselves and you with us that this would be a place where we are committed to reaching people with the gospel. So we are still committed to care for you guys, all right? It's not like, you're good now? Awesome. Head out there, get beat up a little bit, right? We're still, no. How do we love you? How do we equip you? How do we resource you? How do we care for you? That's still the plan. But we want to figure out, how do we reach our neighborhoods? How do we reach this city? How do we reach the area that God has placed us in sovereignly, right? Providentially. You're not here by accident. You're here for a reason. You're here for a purpose. And so our commitment is, as we go forward, we want to see people reached. We want to see more people know Jesus, more people hear the gospel, more people get fired up about the fact that Jesus came to earth and died in our place, right? And so that's kind of where we want to go next, and kind of talk a little bit about how is this working itself out right now, and how is it going to work itself out possibly down the road. All right, so let me get us into this. In terms of the way we structured this section, is we looked at what are we doing near and what are we doing far. So let me start with near. Near, we went to 3 Sunday morning services, and that's actually been going really, really well. It's been amazing, the energy our team has had. It's been amazing to see you guys respond and how kind of it's shaken out. The 8:30 is much better attended than I had anticipated. So if you're in the 8:30, good job.
And the most responsive service.
That is true.
By far.
I love the 8:30. So if you're not in the 8:30,
challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Yeah.
A show of hands. Who's here at the 8:30 on Sundays typically?
Oh my goodness.
That's the member service. That's what it is. Who's
They're
here
my
at
people.
the 10? 10 o'clock. Okay. And mind you, we asked all of you to not attend the 10. So okay. Now, who's here at the 11:30? Okay. The few, the proud.
All right. So here
Pretty
we
good
are.
distribution actually amongst all 3. Yeah.
That's good job, guys. Good job. The other thing is community groups, right? We talked about maybe 2.5-ish years ago. Man, I'm doing preaching. I'm like trying to lead the elders. I'm doing community groups. This is nightmarish. I'm not caring well for community group leaders. And we talked about needing a community groups pastor. Pastor Simon joined us from California. And since then, actually, he's been able to build a great team. We have Monica right over there. I saw her. She's helping us with a whole bunch of organization spreadsheets. Who knew that you loved spreadsheets? She didn't know, but she loves spreadsheets, and she's been super helpful in organizing things and making sure that we're keeping track of all the. And then Anna's right back there. She's been helping a ton. This is really exciting. So thank you. To you guys, thank you to Pastor Simon, as our community groups have grown. We have how many?
We have 32 community groups.
Okay.
We have 7 coaches that help oversee, shepherd, care for those community group leaders. We have 399 adults in our 32 community groups and 110 kids in our 32 community groups.
Wow.
Which is incredible. So it's almost a 1-to-1 on average Sunday attendance. If they're here on Sunday, it's the same number that's meeting together in our groups on a weekly basis.
Wow, that's
which is
amazing.
Unheard of, by the way, those
Yeah.
percentages.
Very, very cool. So that's what's happening here, and we're trying to. Pastor Simon actually is doing some cool stuff that we will talk about probably in the spring in regards to training up more community group leaders, and he's working hard on that. And so we're working hard to figure out how do we do our very best to keep caring for, keep reaching people here through our Sunday services and through our community groups. In the meantime, our far reach has been through church planting, and that's been, as you guys know, both in the United States as well as in Europe, right? So we've, and Africa actually, so Ireland, Ethiopia, Lithuania, and then some locals, Lakeland, Florida, and others. One cool thing with that, or actually two cool things. One, Redemption Spokane. You guys remember those guys? We supported them the entire time that we've been a church. And this last June 30th, they said, we're doing well. Thank you so much. We don't need your support anymore. So they rolled off, and we're like, all right, who else are we going to support? Really, which is really, really cool. So we're excited about that. Another church that we supported from before when they started is Redemption, another Redemption, that must be a theme, Redemption Lakeland, all right? And actually, I don't know, who remembers Pastor Brandon Padgett who came out here to preach? A couple of you? Okay. So he's a pastor out there, and they just got to buy a building, which they're, what, year and a half, 2 years old?
2 years old, yeah.
2 years old, bought a building, and their launch service in this brand new building right in the heart of Lakeland, 450 people in attendance. Brand new church in Lakeland. It's awesome.
And they started with what, 30 people?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So it's growing. I mean, it is really, really amazing. They've been able to baptize a good number of people this year, and God is doing great things. Another thing, now going back, zooming back into the near, we've actually been really excited about being able to support several ministries right here in Seattle and right here on the UW campus. So, Michael and Megan, are you guys here tonight? Right there. Would you stand up? This is Michael. Yeah, he and his lovely wife Megan work with Bridges, which is the international student arm of Cru. And we've been privileged to partner with them, support them. Thank you for being so generous. We're able to support the TAPS and make sure that they can continue their ministry to international students on UW's campus.
Let me do a quick shout out for Michael. They host a Thanksgiving dinner for international students every November here. We actually host it here at the church. You need help, don't you? Talk to Michael after service if you want to help.
Okay, stand up again so everyone can, like everyone before was like, who, what? That guy. Talk to that guy. All right, now the other thing that we're excited about, and we just started this partnership, is Chase, Nathan, and Michael. Are you guys here? I see Michael. Stand up. Come on, stand up. These, all right. There, yeah. These strapping young fellas work with the navigators in the Greek system on Greek Row, right over here, a couple blocks over 17th Avenue. And are doing great ministry, very evangelistic, reaching into the fraternities and sororities to reach young men and women with the gospel. So we're excited to partner with you guys. If you want to know more about that, if you have a soft spot for university students, if you have a soft spot for, Kappa something something, right? I could throw out a bunch of Greek letters. Then these guys are who you want to talk with.
I mean, there should have been something else.
But that's not the point. Anyway, so these guys, pray for them if you're interested. Kappa Phi Omega. Here we go. I'm making stuff up. I have no idea.
I think from the very beginning we let you guys know that we wanted to be partners in gospel work both here locally and also abroad. And so we've committed from the very beginning of being able to give a portion of our budget away to be able to support church planners, to be able to support missionaries, people doing vocational ministry here and on campus. And so from our outside, when we began as a church, we've been tracking how much money we've been able to give away. And so I want to let you guys know that you, Cross and Crown, have given away $306,936. That's incredible.
Wow. That's amazing. We would like you to give away more. Here's where I get really antsy and really excited. And this is our future opportunities. And if you know me, if you've hung around me for any length of time, you know that I, with regularity, have new, exciting, and at times, crazy ideas. And so, with permission from the elders, I want to share. So this is something, this has already been vetted. Like, think of all the ideas you're not hearing. Really, you're missing out. This is so exciting. So with permission from the board and the elders, I get to share a couple of ideas that we currently are praying about, that we're thinking about, and that potentially we will start engaging in a very short period of time. All right, so we're praying, we're doing some vetting, we're doing some looking into organizations, we're looking into viability, we're praying about whether God would have us partner in these areas, but there's a potential, there's a possibility that one of these two things I'm going to talk about actually could start happening in just a few handful of weeks. So let me talk to you what we're talking about. Can I stand up?
Yes.
I'm like a caged animal. All right. So this is what we're thinking of. And again, it's near and it's far. Some of you know I was just in Brazil. And the reason I was in Brazil is actually to check out, to visit, to see, and to vet a partnership opportunity for us as Cross and Crown with Compassion International and Stadia Church Planting to plant a church in northern Brazil. So here's what they showed us, and these are just some of the facts that we've seen. In northern Brazil, despite the fact that the South is super wealthy, that Brazil is an industrialized and educated nation, in northern Brazil, 5.8 million children live under $2 per day. That's considered extreme poverty. And so if you're familiar with Compassion, Compassion is the child sponsorship agency where for, I think it's $36, $38, something like that a month, you can sponsor a child to make sure that they have clothing, that they get one substantial meal per day, that they get education, and on and on. Compassion International and Stadia Church Planting are partnering in parts of South America. Brazil is one of them. I think there's 6 nations currently that they're partnering with. I think it's Bolivia, it's Mexico, it's Brazil, it's Honduras, and I don't know if it's Honduras, it's one other, or 2 other. Anyways, Brazil is one of them, where they're looking into partnering with churches in the United States and Europe to help start a congregation in some of these poorest of the poor areas. The way that they're doing this right now is they're finding a mother church who is in the vicinity. Sometimes it's an hour away, sometimes it's 2 hours away, that is willing to put some skin in the game, train, assess, support, care for a lead planter to go into an area, start a church there, and simultaneously start a Compassion Child Development Center. So here's what they're thinking. They're saying, we will find churches and we will help assess these churches that they fit the fundamentals, right? So deity of Christ, the Trinity, salvation by grace through faith, the return of Christ to rule and to judge, and the scripture is as inerrant and authoritative word of God. So which is what our fundamentals are. And so they're going to vet these churches, they're going to vet these church planters, And then they're going to procure land in this area to build a childhood development center. What we might be partnering with would be to give, number one, a one-time grant to the church to buy all the materials. And number two, if we choose to do this, is to actually have first right of refusal to sponsor what would amount to about 200 kids for this child development center. I'll be honest with you, I have never in all my missionary journey seen the church and Mercy Ministries work as effectively as in the several churches that I got to visit 2 weeks ago. I just haven't seen it. I've seen Mercy Ministry done really, really well. I've seen the church done really, really well. I'm super excited about it. We're doing some vetting. We're looking into the organizations. We're looking into just kind of like what are the different options. But depending on how that goes, if we find out something where it's like, man, this is not going to work, I'm going to have to stand back up and tell you guys, hey, we're not doing this. So if you're getting really excited, then I'm running the risk of having you guys mad at me. So I guess we'll see how it goes. But, man, I am fired up to see what God might do in terms of planting a church. And see, here's what's amazing. I talked with this pastor, and he's like, yeah, I have about 60 adults and about 30 kids, and that's my congregation. They're believers. And then I have access to 200 families because their kids come here to be educated, to be fed, and to be clothed. I walked in Brazil, which is a wealthy nation, at least in the southern part of the country, and I stood in a mud hut without running water, without electricity, without sewage, and here's these kids just big smiles because they're able to be part of the Compassion Childhood Development Center. So, man, I loved what I saw. That pastor, it was amazing. We went to this home, and this mom is like, I'm not a Christian, and I'm actually so ashamed, but if I can just clean myself up, I will come, right? I'm hearing all this through a translator. And it's like, as a matter of fact, I just totally endangered my daughter. I got drunk, and I was walking in the middle of the highway, and someone had to come, had to get me out of the street, and, you know, her daughter is 6 years old. And so she's totally ashamed, and the pastor is like, no, it is Jesus who cleans you. It is Jesus who saves you, and you are welcome to come to our church. And I was just like, wow, if this is the type of people that are doing this ministry, I want to partner with them. So that is a maybe, all right? And I'm pretty excited about the possibility. I told you, far and near. Now coming back, near. Here's something that we are praying through. We're not ready for it, but we're praying through it, and I want to let you as members know about it and let you pray with us, all right? And that is, many of you have moved north of really the U District, north of Northgate, north of Shoreline, and beyond. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about? How many of you have moved north? All right? Yeah, when we look at our numbers and we look at our addresses, there's probably 60 to 80 people of kind of our core people that live in that area. So here's the challenge. What do we do about that? They are faithful. They keep coming. They keep driving, no problem. But what we've heard more than once is that neighbors or friends or people that live around them that they have invited are not making that drive. They're saying, why would I drive to the U District? That's just weird. And so here's something we're thinking about. How can we serve that region, that area, North Seattle and kind of beyond there? And here's an idea. The idea is to start a service. What do I mean by start a service? We're not ready to start a church there, and just like we don't have currently the staff that we need, we don't have the resources that we need to pull that off. But what we're thinking is, what if we started a service? So just like we have the 11 o'clock service right now, 11:30, and that's why no one is here, I don't know the time. We would find a location and do the 8:30, do the 10 o'clock, I'll hop in the car, drive there, and we start a service in northern part of Seattle. And then as that, we see, how does it go? Are the people that are living in the northern part of our city, are they missional? Are they going to invite their friends? Are they going to share the gospel? Are they going to bring others? Is it going to be viable for the long run? And if it is, then that would become a campus. And what that means is we would, get a campus pastor, we'd hire a campus pastor to lead that church as a lead pastor and as a teaching pastor. Someone that would be a part of our elder team, someone that would be a part of our church that would get all the resources like, posters and graphics and everything that we have, get our human resources, get like the insurance through our church, all that stuff. That person would be on our team, part of our elder board, the whole thing. And then if that goes well, a year, two, who knows, couple years down the road, that could become an independent church that would just be a like-minded church in that part of the town. And at that point, would start all over again. Find another region where people from this church are moving to, find a location, start a 11 o'clock service. And we could do this indefinitely because this initial service would show viability. And it would not really cost us a whole lot of money because we wouldn't increase our staff team. So those are the far in Brazil and the near service, campus, independent church. Now we know with all this stuff, whether it's some of our crazy ideas, whether it's some of our financial things, whether it is community groups, you guys have questions. I can see it on your faces. So we want to transition to a time of Q&A and give you an opportunity to ask some questions, ask some things that are on your heart that maybe as we share things that the Lord has put in your heart, or that maybe you just were like, man, I've always wanted to know if. So this is going to be your time. We'll have 20 minutes?
Yeah, we've got 20 minutes. We've got mics set up on the side, so you will need to come over and stand at the mic and ask your question in front of everybody. But we'd love to invite you guys up, so what you got?
Yeah, there's no anonymous question asking.
Dennis, brave man, yes.
Evening, gentlemen. Can you elaborate, well, or actually not elaborate, but be more specific about where north you're thinking on that idea?
Yeah, so we're talking through that. The place that I have right now that I'm looking at would be probably 99 between Edmonds and Linwood.
So landmarks, if you operate that way, kind of between Costco and Alderwood Mall, in that area.
I know Costco. Nate?
So awesome to see the numbers for how many people are serving in the church. One question that I have for just different ways that we could be serving the communities around us. I serve once a month at a homeless shelter just to be able to spend the night so that people can have a place to sleep. And they're constantly short. The main reason that I went is because somebody told me they're constantly short men because they need one man, one woman to keep the shelter running overnight. Are there opportunities for us as a church to be able to serve the homeless communities around here? And is that something that we've considered in the past?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've increased in is our efforts to see our community groups own some of those things. And so Russ and Andrea's group with Brittany and Danielle have been leading the way in foster care and foster care ministry, and they've actually brought us as a church into that at various times. So there was like a coat drive, there was a school supply drive, and a baby supply diaper bag. I was like, baby bag? No, it's not a baby bag. Diaper bag drive, so that we got to participate as a whole congregation in what they as a community group we're doing. So if your community group is like, hey, we're doing this ministry, and we would actually love to see others get involved, talk with Pastor Simon, kind of like share with him, hey, our community group is already doing these things, and here's some things that would be helpful that we could then broadcast, announce, invite the rest of the church in. And there may be groups that are like, man, we are not doing anything right now. We really would love to be a part of it. And you may connect with 2 or 3 community group leaders that would then come alongside you to have their group own some of that. Great question. Harmony.
Another serving-based question. With the near and far goals that you just presented, how can we, the body of the church, help serve you guys and help make those happen?
Wow, okay. There's, so here, this is actually a great question. So in terms of the near, Pastor Simon is always on the lookout for what are the opportunities for service, for ministry, for involvement locally. So that would be a good place to start. If your community group is saying, hey, we want to get involved practically, what can we do? He's probably going to have some options. In terms of the far involvement, this is actually a reason we are looking into Brazil. So if you were here at our February one, I talked about Ghana. Anyone remember Ghana? Some of you are like, yes, why aren't you talking about Ghana? Here's the problem with Ghana. I'm super excited about Ghana, but it's an opportunity for elders to go and teach pastors locally. It wasn't an opportunity to get the church involved. And as much as I would love to do that right now, we push the pause button on that because it's not a congregational involvement. If God leads us to partner with the people in Brazil, it would mean giving. So it would mean a one-time, probably a year-end financial drive. We would need to raise $87,000 for the one-time gift. It would mean that you'd have an opportunity to sponsor one or multiple children come probably April or May. And it would mean that for the next 2 or 3 years, we would probably do trips to Brazil to teach VBS, to teach English, and to do other local missions events in Brazil over the next several years. So that'd be a specific investment where you could be a part of that type of service far. Locally, if you're like, man, foster care, this is really interesting to me, talk with Andrea. Andrea, just raise your hand, and she can get you kind of all the information there. Other than that, probably Simon. But yeah, I would love that.
Thanks.
I'll add to that too, and that is on the number of 220 plus people that are serving. That is fantastic, and yet we could easily double that number. I think everybody that serves on any team on a Sunday is constantly tapped on the shoulder that, could you give more? Could we get one more service? Could you do another Sunday this month? And what we would love to be able to do is build up our team in such a way where people are able to serve maybe just every other week. Instead of having right now where we've got people serving multiple services on consecutive Sundays with not a whole lot of daylight at the end of that tunnel. And so while we have 220 plus people that are serving currently, as we start looking at this idea of starting a service, that's going to need more people to be able to serve both here and that location. And if we want to have, say, 60 to 80 people start that other service and to have it be viable from the very beginning, we're going to need people that are willing servants to go along and to be able to support, especially for those local families that want to invite in other families to get some momentum and traction there. Thanks. John.
Hi, I'm John. So I know that you guys mentioned there's a ladies or women's ministry, and I think there's been a few Sundays where there's been some time of worship and women get together, which is awesome. Is there going to be a similar thing for dudes? Because I think we could learn a lot from our fellow men in the church.
So here is to answer concisely, I don't know yet. To give you a reason, here's one reason why, if you wondered, why do we have women's ministry and not men's ministry? Here's the reason. in a complementarian church, you hear men's voices from the pulpit every Sunday, right? Because we believe that the preaching on Sunday from the pulpit, elders have to be male. But we are keenly aware that our ladies need to hear other women's voices. And that's why women's ministry was a priority for us kind of right off the get-go. I think the challenge for churches like us is to figure out how do we, to some extent, have women's voices heard in the church, right? When you look at Scripture, you see women pray, you see women prophesy, right? Paul says, hey, when a woman prophesies, this is what she's supposed to do. You see women host churches. I mean, it's amazing. And yet, there is an element where we're going to hold on to our complementarianness. We just don't want to be more complementarian than Scripture. So that's why we started off having women's ministry, and we made every effort. Like normally a young church like ours, this comes years down the road. But we were like, man, we got to have this so women have an opportunity to hear from other women right off the get-go. And that's why we, at this point, don't have men's ministry. I think it has to do with bandwidth and organization. Doesn't mean that we will never have it, but at this point, it would be a not yet. Now, if you're like, hey, I'm going to organize a bunch of dudes getting together and have, like, man.
There's the danger. No one else can get up and ask me the question after that.
I'm sure, like, I see a bunch of guys nodding. They all want to come to your house, John.
All right, I'll sign up.
All right.
Put some flannel on and put some chili on the car.
Nice. There you go. Thank you, John. Tim, have you noticed that this is the question asking section? These guys are like, whatever.
So my question is actually a little bit more for Cam. Cam, I know we talked about last year giving you half the year off. Just kind of curious of an update. How did that go? Are we going to carry that forward through next year? And then also any updates on the new album coming out?
Come on up here so people
Great
can
question.
See.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. All right, I'll sit. So it was really cool the way it went down this past year. God used the time in a good way. Like I got to write a lot of new songs, travel with the band a lot, and record a lot of new songs. So on the album thing, we will be putting out an album. It's not finished, but we will be putting out an album around Easter time. So that'll be happening. So that's one of the things that came out of that. But what I did find was it was actually too much time away from the church. Like I felt called into ministry at a young age, and I've always felt like the local church was like the hope of the world. You know, that was Jesus' plan. That was when he left us one thing, and that's like this, a body of people doing ministry in cities. And so for me, it felt like I didn't really like being away from church life so long, and I didn't actually need to be away in such big chunks. The way the band operates, we tend to like fly out, do like 4 days and come back, or fly out for a weekend, come back, or sometimes even fly out for like one day. It's not like getting in a van and being gone for like a month. It's like fly out stuff. So I think Matthias and I have been talking, and we both kind of want to change it up. Like I want to, this next year, I want to operate more of a full-time status here in my role as worship pastor, and we'll be able to continue to do some of the traveling with the band and stuff like that. It just doesn't need to be in such big chunks. But I think the cool thing with that was, one, just experimentation and constantly trying to innovate and trying to figure out how can we reach more people. I think I think that was a really good thing for us to go through, of like just trying to experiment, like how can we reach more. And then even though we wouldn't do it again, I'm glad we did it. And a lot of ministry and new songs and new recordings and really good just fruitful times proclaiming the gospel through music in different contexts came through that. So thanks for asking.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's great. Cam, how many songs did you record? Because you recorded 12?
Yeah, we recorded 12 new songs.
So that's,
yeah.
I don't know if you
We're still
ever
recording
tried to
them.
write a song. That is crazy. That is really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Here's the reason, and I think what Cam alluded to is this idea of how can we be creative and innovative. Like my desire really kind of off the get-go, and I think the elders share that desire, is how can we explore what the Lord is up to, right? So what are you dreaming of? What is God speaking to you? How do you see ministry going? And so last year we felt, or Cam felt, man, I sense a stirring in my heart to do something a little different. And our desire was, how do we help accommodate that creatively? And I think right now, just with the growth that we've seen in the church and with some of the things going on, I'm really glad that we're on the same page with Cam being here full time going forward. And I think we're gonna need you, man. So thank you.
I'm glad I'm still here.
So am I.
Thing I was gonna say, not necessarily a question, but oh, I didn't see that. As I was approaching, she was like behind the pole.
Kara.
It was an honest mistake. Not really a question. I wanted to just what? What have I done with my life where if I get in front of a microphone, everyone's just, what's gonna happen? I want to seriously just lift Cam up really quick. This isn't a joke. This isn't a joke.
Physically?
No, I thought it was really cool this last year, the fact that Cam was able to step away for 3 months and then come back and then step away again. I don't know of any church, I don't know of any church leader that has built up a ministry like that with volunteers and people that are very committed, where you could be gone for 3 months. And although we missed him, right, we need more of Cam because he's such a gifted leader. The fact that we were able to still function, the fact that it didn't feel like we skipped a beat, you know what I mean? The team still grew. There were still new volunteers. So anyways, I just want to lift Cam up as a leader. I've never seen that. I've never seen a leader be able to build something like that is kind of self-sustaining, And I think that is a huge signifier of a good leader. And yeah, he knows what he's doing. Just imagine what he can do when he's here more often. So, yeah.
Imagine what we can do if he comes to work. No, just kidding. Yeah, I really appreciate that. I should have made a joke right after. I was trying to follow up on your joke. No, I really appreciate that. And we talk about this with the elders. Our job really is to equip the saints for ministry. Like I really believe that's the role of the elders, and especially the staff elders, even though we're operating in different disciplines and overseeing different departments. Like our job really is to equip all of you for ministry. And again, going back to that was Jesus' plan of how his plan of redemption for the earth was for all of you to be out in this city doing ministry and this going on all over the world. And so I really do view it as my role here to try to raise up leaders. And it has been really just encouraging for me to look at the music and production department and just see so many leaders. So I'm just really grateful. That's probably the thing I'm most grateful for in my role is all the leaders we have that God's raised up that I continue to get to work with.
Totally.
It's cool.
Kara.
My question's going back to more community groups focused. So I don't remember your name, but for the idea with the men's group, I have similar thoughts where I see needs in our church body that I feel like just need to be filled, whether it's new moms struggling or people who are going through a rough time, no matter what it is. My personal passion is for people who have struggled through an abusive situation and are now on the other side of it, but healing through that. And I would find it really cool if our church had opportunities for those people to come together in group. So if we were to have groups like that, would those be like standalone grassroots movement things where I'm like, oh, hey, you know about this, come over to my house and we'll do this? Or would that be something that the church can like funnel people to, like knowing that I have that passion, like can you funnel people to me if I start up a group like that? And would it be like a new community group type thing, or would that be in addition to community group, having these more like specialized groups like that?
I think I'll jump in, and I know Simon and I are on the same page of this. There's kind of a couple of nuances in answering that. One is we want to be able to empower you to be able to serve people with your gifts and with your passions. Philosophically, there's some tension there because we want to continue to have diversity within our groups, and we don't want to create, you've heard the term affinity groups, of people that have a singular goal and mission, and what it ends up doing is creates a group that is so focused on one thing that they can often miss the opportunity to serve outside of that particular focus. And so one of the ways I would encourage you, have those conversations with Simon to see what it looks like to have basically a network and opportunities to gather together with other people and really be a resource. Like not only within the church, but also what are some of the social services that are available, and how can we be a bridge and a connector to some of those? Because particularly if you're coming from an abusive situation, you don't know what resources you have on hand. And if you could equip then our 32 community groups and their leaders with that kind of information, that has an impact that's greater than just your own singular bandwidth. So am I speaking in line with what you're thinking? Yeah. So I think there's definitely a both and in there. We want to be cautious and we want to empower, and in doing that, we can have a much broader impact and allow you to leverage the gifts that God has given you to serve the body. All right, we're going back through the line. So Dennis, come on up.
I don't want frequent flyer miles, really. But since Cam came up, I just, on the North service and then campus and progression that you were talking about, I was just prompted to think, you're willing to drive up north, you said. What is the framework as it stands? I understand it's nebulous, for the periphery that happens. Worship ministry, kids men, all the way through to janitorial.
Totally. Great question. And that is, okay, it is more than just a fluke. It is more than just a dream. I do not believe that hope is a strategy. So here is what this would look like. We would start with gathering the people that are already in that area together and start having some info meetings to start seeing who is interested, who wants to be a part of it. Then, let's say there's 60 people like that. We would say, okay, our 11:30 is now going to be an equipping service for you. And it's still going to be open to everyone, but that kind of would be their time to gather. We would preach the same sermon, but maybe do some more equipping as they're ready to become a core team, become missionaries to their neighborhood, become missionaries to their area. Once we have secured a place and are ready to have a launch service, we would give them resources to invite their neighbors, invite their friends, get a launch service going. It would mean I would drive. The way I envision it, one of our bands would be the primary band for up there, and that would be Cam's responsibility, just like he has raised up 4 or 5 bands, 6 bands probably since I've known him. They're not all here anymore, but he's certainly shown the ability to do that. Have one of our bands kind of be the primary band, probably have Brand hand over to 2 of his very capable service leads, kids ministry here, at least at the 10 o'clock service, go up there to initially run that, to have that as good as at all possible. So it is a safe, it is an attractive, it is a viable church service for the people from that neighborhood to come to. So that's kind of, so there's definitely, we have a bunch of service leads that are doing a phenomenal job here, and probably what would mean is we would take one of those service leads and put them into that location. So while we're probably a ways away from being able to do it, we have pretty significant level of planning and strategizing that has gone into that at this stage.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you've got two parallel processes. One's going to be transplant, existing resources and existing experience. The other is replicating that experience to either backfill here or move there. Is that-
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. And we're officially out of time. One more? Is this a statement or a question? If it's a statement, you don't get to make it.
Kim, hook.
I want to make sure no one was behind that pole. This is just a tag on what I said because I realized that I forgot to say this. I think this is very important. This isn't a question, one more statement.
Tess is dying right now.
I'm sorry, honey. I think it's really important to note not only in Cam's absence, the ministry that the Lord empowered him to build was self-sustaining. That's amazing. But also, I wanted to publicly thank you guys because I know a lot of different worship leaders and a lot of different churches in the area and around the country, and I've never heard of a church with pastors and elders and a team like we have here that's actually willing to think outside the box and get creative and allow one of their leaders to leave like that. So I wanted to thank you guys because that's unheard of, to be able to actually walk alongside somebody on your staff and be that flexible. And it's amazing, truly. Even up in Linwood, a friend of ours who's a worship pastor, he can't not lead on a Sunday. He always has to be up there. And that's a normal thing within kind of the worship community. So anyways, hand to our pastors.
All right. Here's what I would love to have happen right now. I would love to invite our elder statesman, Rick Bumpers. Would you come up here? Would you pray for this church as we close out this evening?
Father, we love you. Everything we have is worth our thought, worth our emotions, worth our affections is a gift from you. These people that we get together with to lift each other up to you, we have hope and we have dreams because of you. Without you, there is no hope and there is no use even helping each other because we're all out for each other. But Father, you changed our hearts, you grabbed us, you redirected us, you gave us an eternal destiny that we can look forward to and we can dream about when we'll be back on this earth, fully restored, without the pain, without the need for all of the hurt ministries that have to happen now. We just look forward, Lord, to that day when you will make everything new. Thank you for letting us be a part of it now. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here, taking the time. We do appreciate it. Well,
The studio upstairs and the student room downstairs are open if you guys want to go take a sneak peek. To get to the studio, go to the stairwell that's over by the offices, and you can go check them out. Jeremy will be downstairs at the student lounge. Cam, I think you and Shay will be upstairs. So.
Okay, if you need directions, we'll get you directed. So up the far stairway, up all the way until you can't go anymore, and then Cam will be there directing you a little further.